Next, Emmanuel Macron visiting Israel this Tuesday. First stop, Israel then to meet Benjamin Netanyahu, the French president, launching the idea of an international coalition against terrorism and Hamas. Macron later met with the Palestinian president Mahmud Abbas, becoming the first world leader to do so since the outbreak of the war. He urged protection of all civilians in the conflict. The conversation with Abbas taking place in Ramallah on the West Bank. Let's get more analysis and bring in Yossi Mekelberg, who's Associate Fellow in the Middle East and North Africa Programme at Chatham House. Yossi, thank you for joining us. We always appreciate your time. How are you reading the current situation, sir, with Macron going to the Middle East and making his suggestions, clearly echoing what Joe Biden's been saying all along, and in amongst all of this, of course, the plight of the hostages? What's your reading of things?
Good evening. I think the importance of this visit, as the visit by other world leaders, mainly from the West, is expressing solidarity with Israel, at the same time expressing also the horror of what happened on the 7th of October, but also to look into what happened in Gaza, and slowly also to reassess how Israel responded in Gaza. And I think it's really important that President Macron went to Ramallah, because there must be open channel also with the West Bank, with Fatah, with the Palestinian Authority. At the end of the day, if there is a war, on Hamas, and declared war on Hamas, it's important also that there is an alternative, that not a new vacuum is created in Gaza, because into this vacuum, even worse forces can be sucked into. So I think this is a very important step by President Macron, but I think it has to be followed suit by others. On the one hand, yes, can be a unity when it's fighting against Hamas, because I think it excluded itself from the political process, but at the same time ensure that we also the West empowers forces that can then go and negotiate a peaceful solution.
Yossi, if you don't mind, can I ask you about the UN Security Council and what was said there? Because clearly a very heated discussion and a very intense emotional discussion regarding the situation, with Antonio Guterres making a statement, which then made the Israeli ambassador call for his resignation. Did Guterres go too far in saying what has happened here hasn't happened in a vacuum? It's been a result of many years of conflict and tension.
Is it? Because of the situation is so volatile and so sensitive, I think every word is under the microscope. You see, the Israelis thinks that actually by Guterres saying that he almost blames them. And what actually Secretary General Guterres said, listen, if situations are not resolved, this is a count where extremism and radicalization fester. So they need to accept also this. Israel is not to blame for the brutality of the Hamas. Only Hamas is to blame for the brutality that it showed on the 7th of October. But it's also, when the dust is settled, and then, as you know, including on this channel, some of us actually warned time and again that without a solution, a peaceful solution for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, at one point or another it would implode. It's not because anyone supported or think this was a good idea. It's because that's what happens in conflict. So Israel needs to also to rethink about how you create a different environment in which movement like Hamas and Islamic Jihad is not prospering, and instead of that, empowering other Palestinian movement that want to live in peace with that. I think calling for Guterres to resign is just a silly reaction.
Indeed, and I had to ask you, Yossi, because obviously we've spoken many times about the issues relating to the Middle East, and you're always consistently a voice of good analysis and reason. So thank you for answering that question for us. Final question to you, sir. Ground invasion. Clearly, this is something that all world leaders who've been to the Middle East have said, look, civilians need to be protected. And one wonders if that is at all possible if this ground invasion goes ahead.
My fear that is there's only gestures or empty words. We already, as you mentioned at the beginning of the program, nearly 6,000 Palestinians killed, many of them civilians, and we don't even know the figures. My only hope is that I think because 17 days passed since the 7th of October, there will be a rethink what kind of ground invasion will take place, and I hope it will more surgical than probably what it might have been had it been on the 8th of October when the anger was at highest. But let's not delude ourselves. Any ground invasion will involve many casualties, by the way, probably on both sides. At a certain point, let's hope that it's, even if it happens, it's a short one, surgical one, and very few as possible are hurt by that. But then the Security Council and the United States and other allies of Israel will have also to call for Israel to agree to a ceasefire.
Yossi, thank you very much indeed for joining us here in France 24. We always appreciate your time and your analysis. Yossi Mekelberg, Associate Fellow on the Middle East and North Africa Programme at Chatham House. Yossi, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.